Hi everyone, my name is Kimmy and I'm currently studying abroad in Tokyo, Japan, and I just wanted to give you a bit of advice on what I would advise you to do if you're someone who really wants to start learning Japanese, and maybe you can learn from my mistakes, because I certainly made a lot of them. So my number one advice to you would be to realize the undertaking that you are diving into when you start to learn Japanese. Realize that it's going to take you a long time. That's my first pointer, is that you have to realize that Japanese is going to take you a very long time to learn. And you can get to a level where you're kind of like able to speak in sentences if you're dedicated pretty quickly, but realize that it is a marathon, it is not a sprint, and you have to have a strong internal drive and motivation and dedication if you want to learn it. It's not just something that you can be like, oh, I'm interested in it. You have to be like, I really want to learn this if you want it to happen. So my next step would be that you need a lot of exposure to learn Japanese. You can't just expect once a week in a class to give you that kind of amount of exposure that you need to get dedicated and learn Japanese. Because I found that when I was starting to learn Japanese, I joined a class in Sydney, Australia that only met once per week. And it didn't have homework, it didn't have tests, and of course I could have gone over things in my own spare time when I wasn't at this class, but because I was taking other university courses, I had a job at the time, of course I ended up not putting that much time into learning Japanese. And here is my learn from my mistake moment, is that you should realize that you need to be either taking a very intensive class, which isn't really in most people's budgets because they're pretty expensive, or you need to realize that you have to spend quite a lot of time outside of class studying to make your Japanese level rise as quickly as you have the capability to make it rise. Find a class that has homework and tests, even though those can be kind of annoying. I find that they're very necessary for motivational purposes. And yeah, so just make sure that you're spending enough time with the language. And that exposure should also include audio, because I found that once I got to Japan, all the audio I was experiencing really allowed me to get the cadence and the rhythm and the melody of Japanese, and as a result my accent has really improved. And then the third step is that you really need to learn hiragana and katakana really well. You need to learn it to the point where it just comes out of you just as easily as the alphabet does. And of course I'm not really at that point yet, but I'm at the point where I can just write hiragana really easily. Katakana still has a bit of like a little bit to go there. I know it, but it's not quite as good as hiragana. So you just really need to get to the point where you can write hiragana and katakana super quickly, because otherwise you're not going to really be able to write sentences or kind of write the readings of kanji. And if you're relying on Romaji, which is the Western alphabet version of Japanese, you're just gonna slow yourself down so much. And I resisted this so much. Like, I really didn't get good at hiragana and katakana until I got here to Japan, and I found that resisting that was really hurting me. And my very last tip here for you is to really realize that speaking and writing are very separate things when you learn a language, that you can't just rely on one and hope the other one will just magically happen for you. In fact, you really need to do a lot of talking to be good at talking, and you need to do a lot of writing to be good at writing. So you can't just be like, oh, speaking in Japanese is really hard, so I'm not going to do that yet. I would say that it's really important to realize that you have to practice all areas of a language to get good at all areas of a language, and that can be very scary, but also very important. And I guess I'll do a little side note at the end here about that, is that one thing that is a bit frustrating that I've found is that a lot of people tell you that you can just start doing like speaking immediately, and I would say that that is a bit of poor advice. That it's actually possible to do what I've been doing, like little video diaries to practice speaking, just to kind of get your mouth moving in the way that the language works. But you're not going to be able to do like language exchanges with native speakers until you're quite a lot better at the language, because the issue is that a language exchange only really works if you're at a level where you can kind of communicate. And you only get to a level in Japanese when you can kind of communicate. Once you're pretty good at the language, you need quite a lot of vocabulary, you need quite a lot of grammar to get any sort of thought across besides like, I went to school today. That's not really enough to have a conversation. So I would say that my advice to you would be that yes, you need to practice both areas a lot to get good at it, but that you should focus on vocabulary and grammar and really getting good at hiragana and katakana before you try to find a language buddy. Because I haven't even gotten to the point now where I'm super comfortable about doing language exchanges. I do go to them and I do speak, and I can talk about quite a lot of things, but I still haven't gotten to the point where language exchanges with native speakers fully would be my full potential. So fully help me reach my full potential. So I would say I still have a bit to go with that. So yeah, if any of this helped you, I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye everyone!